In this world of noise, in this age of constant broadcasting, people feel an almost irresistible urge to speak on everything they do. They share their plans before they're planted, their victories before they're won. But wisdom, true wisdom, walks in silence. It doesn't announce its presence with a trumpet. It doesn't cry out in the streets. It moves quietly, confidently, deliberately. When you keep your next move to yourself, you hold the element of surprise. And surprise, my friend, is a weapon. It is a shield and a sword. Because the moment you reveal your next step, the world begins to calculate how to stop you. You see, the greatest generals in history didn't reveal their battle plans to the crowd. They studied in silence, they strategized in the dark, and they struck like lightning. And you must do the same. There are people around you who smile in your face, but secretly hope you'll fall. There are folks in your circle who pretend to clap, but they count your steps, and when you speak too soon, they start building obstacles in your path. It's not about paranoia, it's about preparation. It's not about mistrust. It's about maturity. A seed doesn't tell the soil how it plans to become a tree. It simply grows. It pushes through the dirt quietly, consistently, until one day it stands tall and the world takes notice. That's how you move. That's how you rise. Because the loudest person in the room is often the one doing the least. And those who speak, you may have dreams burning in your chest, visions that keep you up at night, but until they take form, until they have foundation, keep them close. Let your work speak. Let your results shout. But your intentions, keep those in your heart. Sometimes silence is mistaken for weakness, but only by the loud and the foolish. The wise know that silence is a signal, a sign that something is being built, something is being born. The quiet before the storm. That's how you need to move, like a storm behind closed skies. Speak when the work is done, because when you talk too much, and not everyone who hears it wants you to win. There's an old saying, never let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. That's not just poetry. That's protection. That's power. When you move in silence, you confuse those who try to copy you, stop you, block you. They don't know where to aim because they don't know where you're going. You become unpredictable. You become unshakable. And in a world full of noise, mystery is magnificent. People are drawn to those who don't reveal everything. People respect the one who doesn't need to explain, but simply arrives. Fear is a sacred thing. It's not meant to be thrown around like loose change. It lives in the corners of your soul, in the quiet rooms of your heart, and it reveals more about you than anything else ever could. When you speak your fears out loud, especially to the wrong ears, you expose a part of yourself that should be protected. You show people exactly where you're vulnerable, where the cracks in your armor are. And trust me, not everyone who hears those words will handle them with care. There are people in this world who feed off the weaknesses of others. They won't always look like enemies. Sometimes they come dressed as friends, as mentors, even as lovers. But deep inside, they are collectors of secrets, hunters of insecurities. They listen closely, not to help, but to hold leverage. Even the ammunition, you give them the blueprint to your undoing. That's why fear, though it may scream in your mind, must be tamed in your speech. It must be guarded like a treasure, not exposed like a billboard. We all carry fears. That's not the issue. The issue is who you hand them to. Because not everyone has clean hands. Not everyone will lift you up when you're trembling. Some will take your fear and turn it into gossip. Some will use it to keep you small. Some will remind you of your fears every chance they get just to keep you from rising. And if you've ever confided in someone only to have it thrown back in your face, you already know how deep that cut can go. There's a power in keeping your fears between you and your Creator, or between you and the mirror, or within the sanctuary of trusted, proven souls. There's a dignity in walking into the battlefield with your knees shaking, but your lips sealed. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the refusal to let fear speak for you. And when you stop giving your fears a microphone, you stop letting them rule you. They lose their grip. They shrink in the silence. You see, when you share your fears with everyone, you start to live by them. They become your narrative. They become your reputation, and people will treat you according to what you show them. If you walk around telling the world that you're afraid of failure, of rejection, of not being enough, don't be surprised when they begin to define you by those very things. People remember what you fear more than what you hope for. They'll forget your dreams, but they'll hold on to your doubts. So when fear rises in your chest, when it tries to pour out of your mouth, hold it back. Let it fuel your fire, not your conversations. Let it sharpen your instincts, not soften your image. Because the enemy, whoever or whatever that may be in your life, is always listening. Never expose your weaknesses. Protect your armor. In a world where everyone is watching, where opinions form in seconds and judgments are cast like stones, your weaknesses must be guarded like sacred ground. Weaknesses are not sins, and they are not flaws. They are human, natural, and real. But they are also open doors, and when left unguarded, they become easy entry points for manipulation, ridicule, and control. It's not about pretending to be perfect, it's about protecting what is still under construction. Because the moment you expose your weak points to the wrong people, you hand them the very tools they need to bring you down. We live in an age that celebrates vulnerability, and while there is a time and place for authentic sharing, not all vulnerability is strength. There is wisdom in knowing the difference between openness and overexposure. Just because someone asks doesn't mean they deserve an answer. Just because a moment feels emotional doesn't mean it's safe. You are not required to bleed in front of every audience. Not every stage is sacred. Not every ear is holy. Some are just waiting to use your softness as a strategy against you. The people who truly care about you, the ones who earn your trust, will see your struggles without you having to parade them. But the rest of the world, they don't need to know where you stumble, what triggers you, or where the cracks in your foundation lie. Because once they do, they start testing those places, pressing on them, reminding you of them, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, but always with impact. And over time, that can chip away at your confidence, your strength, your identity. You don't hang your armor in public and then act surprised when arrows start flying. Weakness, when exposed, becomes a map. And maps are for travelers, some of whom are only passing through to take what they can. Your armor is not just for defense. It's your presence, your peace, your posture in this life. Protect it. Build it strong, layer by layer. Let your silence be questioned, but never confused. Because there's power in letting people wonder. There's safety in being underestimated. There's peace in knowing you are the only one who truly understands the full weight of your struggle. The world doesn't need to know the battles you're still fighting. What they need to see is the warrior who keeps showing up, even when tired, even when uncertain. You don't have to explain your scars to people who haven't earned the right to see them. Keep your healing sacred, keep your growing private. Weakness is not your identity, it is your lesson. And not everyone is qualified to grade your progress. So you walk with your head high, even if your knees are shaking. You speak with authority, even if your voice is trembling. Because power isn't just about what you show, it's about what you protect. There's something powerful about keeping people guessing. In a time when status is flashed, bank accounts are bragged about, and lifestyle is measured by likes and labels, there is rare strength in restraint. Talking about your income may seem harmless, even impressive, but it can quietly create tension, jealousy, and competition where there should be peace. It stirs emotions, it awakens insecurities, and once your income is out in the open, people stop seeing you, they start seeing numbers. You may think sharing your financial success will inspire others, but more often than not, it breeds silent resentment or disguised envy. Friends start comparing, colleagues begin measuring, strangers feel the urge to judge. Some may pretend to celebrate you while secretly wondering why it isn't them. And some will use your income as a reason to question your motives, your choices, even your character. That's the danger of disclosure. It invites assumptions. Suddenly, your generosity isn't from the heart, it's because you can afford it. Your decisions aren't wise, they're privileged. And your struggles, they get dismissed entirely because people think money cures everything. Keeping your income private isn't about shame, it's about strategy. It's about walking through this world without giving people unnecessary access to parts of your life they haven't earned. When no one knows your exact position, no one can accurately place you. You remain unpredictable, unmeasurable, unbothered. And in that space of uncertainty, respect grows. Because people don't respect what they can count, they respect what they can't figure out. Mystery creates power, and in silence, wealth becomes strength. Talking about your income can also place invisible pressure on your relationships. It changes expectations. People start to assume you can always pay, always help, always say yes. Your boundaries begin to feel like betrayal to others. They forget you're human. They stop seeing your limits. And when you eventually say no, it feels louder, heavier, colder. Because they've built a version of you based on digits, not reality. That's the trap, and once you step into it, it's hard to climb out. On the other side, if your income is modest or inconsistent, sharing that too can work against you. People start treating you like you're behind. They speak to you with pity or with doubt. They label you before they understand your vision. They confuse a moment in time with the whole story. And if you're building something quietly, struggling privately, trying to grow out of a place no one knows about, the last thing you need is the weight of other people's opinions added to your own challenges. Whether you're thriving or surviving, rich or rebuilding, your income is your business, not your identity, not your announcement, not your ticket to validation. There's more class in quiet success than loud wealth. There's more dignity in private progress than public proof. And sometimes the richest person in the room is the one who never says a word. There is a sacredness to family, a boundary line that should not be crossed for applause, attention, or even temporary relief. When you speak on the conflicts within your household, you expose not just the people you speak about, but you expose yourself. family, no matter how flawed, is the root of your story, the soil from which you grew. And when you drag that soil out into public light for opinions and judgment, you risk stripping away something irreplaceable. Your foundation. Conflicts happen in every family. Disagreements, tension, even betrayal. But not everyone is meant to hear about them, because once the world gets a piece of your personal history, it doesn't forget. People love to take private pain and make it public entertainment. You may share your truth in a moment of hurt, but the world will hold onto it like gossip. What feels like release today can become regret tomorrow. Those words you spoke about your mother in anger, about your brother in frustration, about your father in disappointment, they don't disappear once spoken. They echo. They are remembered. They are repeated. There is strength in protecting your home, even when the walls shake. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means being wise enough to know that healing doesn't happen under spotlights. Some wounds are meant to be dressed in silence. Some misunderstandings require time, not attention. When you speak poorly of your family to others, you not only stain their name, you stain your own. People begin to question your loyalty, your discretion, your maturity. Because if you can turn on your blood in public, what would you do to a stranger? Keeping family matters private is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's maturity, it's honor. It says, we may not be perfect, but we're still family, and that still means something. In a world that encourages exposure, the ability to protect what's personal becomes rare and powerful. It shows that you value trust more than temporary validation, that you choose dignity over drama. People will always try to pull stories out of you. They'll ask leading questions, offer false comfort, hoping you'll open the door just enough for them to peek inside. But you've got to stand guard. Your family may not always deserve your silence, but your own peace does. Because the moment you make your private life public, you lose control of the narrative. Others begin to write your story with pens you never handed them. Even when your family has failed you, disappointed you, or hurt you deeply, the way forward isn't through public confession, it's through private confrontation, through boundaries, through growth. Not everything that's real needs to be revealed. Not every story needs an audience. The respect you show your family in their absence speaks louder than any truth you can tell in their presence. There is a quiet power in doing good without needing to be seen. In a world that constantly shouts its own virtue, where every act of kindness is posted, shared, and framed for praise, the most meaningful deeds are often the ones that stay hidden. True goodness does not seek applause. It doesn't look around to see who's watching. It simply moves from the heart without expectation. When you boast about the good you've done, you strip. It becomes less about impact and more about image. And once that happens, the deed loses its weight. Goodness is not a performance. It's not a spotlight. It's a sacred transaction between you and the world. Sometimes between you and one's soul, and often between you and your Creator. When you feel the need to announce every donation, every act of service, every favor done, what you're really doing is buying validation. You're asking for a reward in the form of attention, and that attention can become addicting. But attention fades. What lasts is the quiet ripple effect of the good you did when no one knew. There is something deeply noble about the person who shows up for others and never posts a thing. The one who gives, helps, serves, sacrifices without needing a thank you, a camera, or a round of applause. That kind of person carries a rare kind of peace. because they're not caught in the game of image. They're not caught up in proving themselves. They just live right, love hard, and move on. And in doing so, they gain something deeper than recognition. They gain self-respect. Boasting about good deeds creates an unspoken hierarchy where your worth is measured by how much you've done and how loud you are about it. But the truth is, real service doesn't come with a scoreboard. You don't have to prove your goodness to anyone. If it's real, it speaks for itself. And often, it speaks loudest in silence. The loudest people in the room are not always the kindest. The ones who talk the most about their generosity often have the least of it. Because true generosity is humble, it's quiet, it's sacred. Every time you resist the urge to tell the world what you did for someone, you're investing in something eternal. You're saying, I didn't do it for the likes. I did it because it was right. And that kind of goodness echoes in places the world can't reach. Let the impact live in the heart of the one you helped. Let the record stay in the hands of the heavens. That's where it belongs. You don't need to tell everyone you fed the hungry, clothed the poor, or forgave the unworthy. The universe already knows, and what's done in secret has a power that can never be touched by public praise. When you give without boasting, you build a legacy. When you help without announcing, you build character. And when you love without needing credit, you build something unshakable.